Hi guys, welcome back again to Elevate Procurement Dialogues with myself, Lerato. Today we have another episode with an esteemed leader, Duma, who is the head of Old Mutual, joining us for conversations that matter. Remember guys, this channel is intended to elevate the procurement professions, supply chain, and more than anything else to transform other leaders that are coming into the space. So let's welcome Duma. Welcome today.
Thank you, Lerato.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well. And thank you for inviting me to the session today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm so honored to actually, sit with you here. It is such a privilege and I really appreciate it. And, one of the fundamental, I would say, objective about this channel is really to bring inspiration and celebrate excellence. And I do recognize that from you.
You're far too kind. I'll play that.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I usually ask my guests to introduce themselves. Just a quick intro, where you come from, how did you build up your journey, just to get to where you are today.
All right, fantastic. So my name is Duma Nongauza. I'm married with 3 cats. I'm what they call a dink, dual income, no kids. And I've been working for procurement now at Old Mutual Insure for the last, it's going to 6 years. It's been a very interesting journey and I'm glad to be here to share it with you.
Thank you so much. As supply and procurement professionals, a lot of times we think our profession is so square and process driven, governance driven, in that you find less inspiration to grow into leadership, to grow into positions. And I've seen your career really move from, an administrator at Rhodes.
Yes.
That's how you started your career, right?
A lab assistant.
Yes.
So I was a student at the time and the university always made these opportunities available to students. I forget how much we were paid at the time, something like 22 Rand an hour, but it was the best 22 Rand that I ever had, because as you can imagine, as a student at Rhodes University in particular, that money went quite a long way, because it was obviously a struggle for the parents to send money, growing up in the Eastern Cape. So really privileged that at least I got a foot in the door by working as a student. Yeah.
So would you say your drive actually started from there? You just wanted to make purpose out of your,
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate enough, I studied information systems and economics. I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know procurement would be a journey that I would embark.
Yeah,
but it
for the most part,
fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So you studied information systems. I have a friend who also studied information systems, and I think now they've ventured into risk and something. It is so interesting to your point, you do not know you're going to venture into this. At what point did you start the procurement work and you were introduced into the world of procurement?
All right. So I moved up to Johannesburg looking for gold, right?
Yeah.
This was around 2005 after I completed my studies. Mm-hmm. I stayed with a friend, so very grateful to Solomzi because he gave me at least a support base to start looking for work. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything once I finished. I remember saying to him, I need to go home, but he persisted by stay,
look for a job, hustle.
Look for it.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough, by the time I got offers, I had 3 offers at the same time.
Sure.
And then the one I chose was Mutual and Federal. They had a graduate internship program.
And at that time, I think these things were introduced, the graduate program.
Correct.
So you were in that wave.
I was a guinea pig, actually. I didn't know. And the intention of the program was actually to build us up to go into the core operations of the business. So they introduced us to claims, to underwriting.
So you had listened to the whole operations. And
correct.
Okay.
Correct. They placed us in Rustenburg. The one thing that I didn't like was the fact that I had to deal with files and papers. Frustrating at the time, but in retrospect, you actually appreciate it because you actually start from the ground.
That's the thing, yeah. And I appreciate that era because then you were firstly grateful that you have a job.
Indeed.
More than anything else, and you respect that you've got a senior, right? And they teach you some principles that, you get to see later on, actually, that has shaped your career.
Absolutely.
Which is not necessarily explored now.
Correct. But at the time when I was in Rustenburg, it was a little bit different to how it is today.
Yeah.
So I had itchy feet, wanted to go back to Johannesburg. I was fortunate enough, I had an opportunity to choose between 7 different business units, and one of them was procurement. And what fascinated me was the fact that, the guys were talking about innovation, dealing with different people in the business, being creative. So I immediately jumped on that opportunity to join the procurement team. Our head at the time, a lady by the name of Heidi Diaz, was very supportive. In fact, even today, she calls me her little star. So she took me under her wing.
Literally, okay.
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate. And then started in procurement in that way around 2006.
Okay, so what would you say was a selling point for you that's like, here, I'm settling in this,
Yeah. I suppose what was nice was the fact that you could deal with everyone in the company.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, so the exposure meant that you had to know a lot about a lot.
True.
And I think that for me was the spark that really, entrenched me in terms of procurement, maybe the career for me. And yeah, ever since I took the jump, I haven't really looked back. And it's been an interesting journey since then.
I love that. Because, I did a video that one of the years that I started seeing procurement almost like for a metaphor, like an ornament in the room, that central one. Because you pull everyone together. Everyone in the organization speaks to you. Whether it's through vendor loading, whether it's through payments, whether it's through contracts, you are there. So it's that central piece that one has to notice, like it or not. And some of them, they're sent through just like, oh, Lerato, we were asked to speak to you. Apparently, you are responsible for this and that and that and that and that. So to your point that, you realize that you speak to everyone in the organization is one of the beautiful, I would say perspective one, can have.
And absolutely. And the lovely thing is you might be speaking to a cleaner today.
Yeah.
You might be speaking to an MD of a company the next day. And I suppose for me, it's also having that ability to treat everyone with respect, treat everyone the same, because, whether you're cleaning the floors, you're actually contributing, to the value of the organization. So it's been a fantastic, a journey in that sense. My journey has also been varied, and I'll tell you why. So I left a Mutual and Federal at the time. I joined a company by the name of SQ Procurement. So they exposed us to the likes of Transnet, Centrula, Omnia. Eventually, I ended up at Veng, after a spell at BHP as well. And at Veng, I remember the one time we needed to help in terms of putting a bridge together, right? And you've got these things called ball bearings, and they come in different standards, And the thing is now, if you don't get the right ball bearing, that one small critical item can cause a whole lot of chaos, if you're not procuring it correctly in terms of engineering standards.
And that's the power that you realize, I'm sure, the time. Damn.
And when the engineer comes to you to say, okay, we need a solution for this, it becomes an interesting exercise. So you get an opportunity to be exposed to a lot, and, working with, the people, you eventually then put together a solution that at least can help.
No, thank you for sharing that. And one thing I really find remarkable as well about your journey is you've moved, different industries, different companies. According to my research, probably about 10, if not more.
I lost count. Sorry.
So the fact that you moved across obviously has positioned you to be someone who today can be seen as that leader in the space, impacting and influencing, the sector. What are some of the challenges that you've seen throughout your entire journey that fundamentally procurement is faced with, that is probably still not yet addressed and might need to be addressed even more?
I believe that some people potentially, see procurement as a bottleneck, and it can be like that, if you don't have the right systems in control, if you're manual, if you're struggling, with certain elements of your procurement frameworks. So based on past experience, people tend to look at you as, someone who's going to stop this.
You're the police.
You're the police.
Someone said,
you're the
firefighter. You think you're the police of the organization. I've had that.
Exactly.
Like someone said to me, you think you're the police of the organization, yet get to tell us what to do and what not to do. And it's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
I remember what my one boss, Neil Cole, while I was at SQ Procurement, consulting in Transnet, saying to me, you have to swallow the frog. because sometimes it's very difficult to have these conversations with people, but ultimately, you have to have that ability to have courageous conversations, put the facts on the table and, hopefully get the people to buy in. So I believe for me, if you really want to run a world-class procurement organization, you really need to align your procurement strategies with the strategy organization, right?
Yeah.
It must be all in one, and see how you can link those.
So now how would you then advise someone, especially now at your position, that you sit with executives, you sit with stakeholders that really do make big decisions in organizations, and they still think, some of them, that procurement is a bottleneck? How would you advise some people out there to, approach, and what are the things just on a practical level?
All right. I'll continue with my journey a bit, because after Veng, I rejoined Mutual and Federal, and they had a lovely opportunity for me to become a manager in risk and compliance for the whole area. So one of the first things I did, I saw that they had employees of the year, leaders of the year. I looked at that and said that I'm going to be, on that. I'm going to be there, right? So I guess it comes with purpose. I think it's very important to understand your purpose. I've always sort of tried to position my purpose that I am here to support the business and enable them to meet their strategic objectives, whether it be through the people, their business unit, or the company overall. So I think purpose is very important, because that will be the nice true north to guide you.
So that's like more of your cornerstone. In any conversation you have, you always remember the purpose.
Indeed.
And how do I deliver this purpose for you to obviously achieve your needs as a business, as a stakeholder and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. The true north at least gives you, the direction you need, and then you can build and hang on everything else around that. So I suppose for me, then, having that purpose, when you are engaging, you remember you're here to support, you listen, you provide alternatives. Ultimately, the decision has to be the business leader. However, the more options you give people, I think you can then spark, different and multiple perspectives, see things that maybe they didn't perceive, and in that way you can hopefully add value and drive the business objectives from there.
Okay. I actually like that. Once you remember what your purpose is, you're able to navigate challenges that come your way and sell it. Because sometimes as procurements, I think you can't sell the value proposition back to business.
Yeah.
And you need to remind people in how you position selling that optimization and proposition back to business.
Absolutely.
And it's very interesting as well. One of the trends I've seen recently is obviously the appreciation of AI coming into the space. I think there's still a lot of room for growth in the innovation space, tech solutions, sourcing forms, etc.
Yes.
Have you seen that type of shift? And in your opinion, do you think, is it appreciated enough, or we're not doing as much?
I've seen attempts at the shift. So with a lot of the technologies, right, a lot of these things come in different categories. So for example, do you want to do machine learning in order to improve your processes? Do you want to automate some of your processes with robotics? Potentially you want to use AI. So I've seen it in terms of, certain applications where perhaps you want to use AI, to read photographs and give you a bit of direction in terms of what you can do, just to assist in terms of reducing the processing time that it would take a human. The lovely thing with AI nowadays is I think it's got an exponential growth curve. But from what I've seen, sometimes we wait for the perfect before we implement. And it's important to remember, don't let the good get in the way of the perfect. You got to get your hands dirty with these things. If you're fortunate enough to have an organization that invests in them as well, because there's always these dangers around AI in terms of you putting these things into a black box. Is it your sensitive data? So I definitely think future, definitely there.
Definitely room for that.
There's definitely room.
So haven't you been in a situation where it's difficult to sell these automated solutions as a business to support? Remember that prioritization list is different. when it comes to IT and which project they're going to support, they're going to go for. If it's not core business, it's a challenge. And that, again, in turn, creates back that effect that you spoke about, that, you almost prove yourself a lot more and stuff. But although we have the solutions and there are systems out there, there's still less appetite from leadership to appreciate and prioritize procurement innovation systems that should enable the, environment. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to your point, if we had unlimited money, unlimited time, unlimited resources, we could go to the moon tomorrow. So with business, you have to manage your priorities, understand where the money needs to go. And sometimes it's not for the stuff that you want to really push. But I suppose a good way to approach that is find the solutions for business first, prove the value in business. Then it becomes a much easier conversation because people can see and touch tangible results, based on what they experience. So sometimes as procurement, you may have to take a little bit of a back seat, just in order to make sure that the business is in a position where they can see the value. And I think once you deliver that, it becomes an easier discussion because now you've freed up some money and you can say to the guys, I can keep just 10% and make sure that we improve our savings.
Which brings me now also to this point. Procurement is mandated to manage company costs and spend, obviously, and savings, one of the biggest KPIs. So do you still find that is the relevant KPI we should be driving as procurement?
Yes and no. Yes, I don't think we're going to run away from that as a value driver. But when we're looking at adding value, it should go beyond just savings, as in just rands and cents.
Yes.
Sometimes you can improve the business through efficiencies,
through
stopping doing things, through changing terms of an agreement, changing the warranty conditions or extending them. So there's a lot of levers
that you can look at
that we can pull. I think for me, it's all about what value can you add.
But do you think the leadership gets that, or they care?
I think when it's demonstrated, certainly, it's something that can be unpacked. Again, having at least savings as a target is a nice first step, to put you in the door and
million.
And then you open.
You bring another conversation.
Conversations.
I see. And this topic it's very topical, in fact, whereby we're not always about driving costs down and savings, this and that. There's a whole lot more that goes into building up efficiencies within procurement. But unfortunately, it's like that tough sting that does not leave you as a procurement professional. You're always seen as, savings, where's savings? First things first, before you even do other KPIs, it must be part of, cost optimization and stuff, and obviously not being the bottleneck like you mentioned. What do you say to people, since you've worked in the space, you can probably appreciate those, even if you're like going somewhere, families, very informal spaces that say, procurement is corrupt.
Oh yes. Look, it's one of the most difficult positions, I think, in an organization, and perhaps that's not appreciated a lot. I've been involved with myself, my colleagues, my leadership teams, as an example, in various capacities in some form of forensic investigation. Because it's very easy for someone to say, but why did we change the supplier? Or they're unhappy that you changed the supplier, and they'll have their own ulterior motives.
Of course, and the interpretation of what that means, yes.
I think for the integrity of the profession, it's very important to show up with integrity, with respect. I think for me, it's, just a hygiene factor for you to be in the game.
I love that hygiene factor.
Yeah, because I think for me, is it worth it taking 20,000, 200,000, however millions, and you sell your soul, and someone else has got control over you and your life and the direction that you can take? Because when they come calling, it might not be at the right time. So I suppose when I look at it, it's really not worth it. But I do understand it is, unfortunately, that nexus event or events in the organization where these sort of things can
emerge. Yes. Without mentioning names, have you ever heard or seen someone go through that before, that they had done some form of inconsistencies, and unfortunately their career ended dark?
Absolutely.
Dark.
Absolutely. It goes without saying. I think if you're in the profession long enough, and look, sometimes it's not only procurement people, sometimes it's people in leadership, sometimes it's people who are not in leadership. Unfortunately, people sometimes do make the wrong choices. My view is, the truth always prevails. So would you like to then see that on the headlines one day?
It's just true.
Yeah,
but do you think now procurement professionals and supply chain leaders are not taught about integrity and the impact and ethical behavior enough? Because I think there's a room for us to amplify the training and the messaging related to that. Possibly, I think we need to consider the fact that there's not a lot more awareness or socialization. You know what I mean? If you think about it, actually.
Absolutely. But do you also think that it's a general societal thing that we should perhaps consider as well?
Moving, one brick at a time, one brick at a time to say, guys, let's promote. Think about corporate trainings and all of that. How many times does any organization drive compliance week or a month we just dedicated to, is that thing of prevention is better than cure?
Absolutely.
And it's something that if you have kids, some people will say, you're going to fall there.
Yeah.
Hey, kids, I told you that you're going to fall. But I don't think we do that enough. There's probably room for that. Just to some ways we can, try and do something around this factor.
I suppose I've been fortunate enough, a lot of the organizations I've worked in, it has been sort of a priority, whether it's then compliance training, anti-bribery corruption training. I have had that exposure. But I think to your point, anything that can assist in uplifting the moral.
Uplifting them, absolutely.
It would be critical,
One of my guests said, it's a thing of, the campaign about HIV.
Yes.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need to show people this is what happens if you don't, vent and stuff. Okay, so
absolutely.
I just want to then quickly move to your career highlights. What has been your career highlight?
Wow. Okay. Some career highlights. While working at a Veng, we found out that we have got 60 subsidiaries as an example. You find when you're analyzing the spend, we've got a steel company internally, but everyone's buying steel from everywhere. So you're basically throwing money away. And would you imagine how much your competitor would charge you compared to getting it in-house? And then we look to consolidate internally. We also had to have conversations internally to say, but guys, you can't give me the price of the man on the street. Let's look at your risk. Let's take out the risk elements. Let's take this out. Let's remove the waste and give us a fair price so that when we go out and try and secure projects, we are as competitive as possible, because ultimately it's for the mutual benefit. But also having worked at Old Mutual, I think lots of highlights.
Okay.
During 2018, 2019, we had to move buildings from town to Pop Town, a huge project. When COVID came through, we were part of the team that started the Business Resilience Committee in order to support the business, because we could foresee, with what was happening in Italy, that COVID would probably last up until September in terms of the lockdowns. So we assisted the business, obviously not just myself, but through a whole lot of different people to manage that transition. I've just taken on quite a lot of roles and responsibilities. So also moved beyond procurement into facilities, which has also been quite an eye-opener in terms of, it's not just about the buildings, but the people in the buildings and what you do to make sure that
I really want to pick your brain about facilities function.
Absolutely.
But before you move on from the highlights and the accolades that you received, how did you feel when you received Leader of the Year award?
Yeah, it was fantastic. So the first time I got it in my third stint, it was both Team of the Year and Leader of the Year. I think for me, that was around the building move.
Okay.
It was really quite a gargantuan undertaking,
Yeah.
because we were moving about 2,500 people, suppliers, from an old building, which was in town, which was comfortable for people because that's
almost central. Yeah,
go to and from work to a new environment, and trying to make sure that by the time they get there, they've got their desk.
Yes.
It was quite fantastic that the leadership of the business, took their time to sort of say, guys, we see what you're doing.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it. So I guess for me, it's more the fact that people appreciate your efforts. I think that's what makes it special.
Sure. Well done.
No, of course.
So with this, all these highlights and accolades that you've received, did you ever experience any moment which you had a, what you call that syndrome?
Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Sometimes it's every day.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you're at a leadership position.
No, sometimes it's every day.
But how does it show up for you, and how did you deal with it?
I suppose at times you get thrown with things that you've never seen before, or you don't understand fully, and people are looking at you for direction or an answer, right? And you ask yourself, am I actually cut out for this? Am I built for this? Is this me? So you have to almost, for my personal experience, move beyond that, focus on the purpose, right? Again.
So you go back to the
purpose. Yeah, just recenter.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may not have the answer, but someone else may have the answer. And it's about at least knowing where to tap to in order to get what you need to get to take things to the next level.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I've also experienced quite a lot of imposter syndrome in my life, and I probably still do every day, including starting this podcast. But
I wouldn't say so.
I just know how to hide it. Trust me. But, again, back to purpose, which is what I really agree, with you on that point, is that ultimately what drives you is that purpose. And then once you go over that, you're like, what happened to that thing? That mini devil that was busy whispering here is gone, So I want us to play a little game. This is what we call in this channel procurement folly. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, first question. Describe your most out-of-the-box procurement experience in just 3 words. Okay, or a sentence. Out-of-the-box experience.
Dealing with tow truck drivers.
Oh, okay. Why is that out of the box?
Sometimes in our profession, right, you think suits, you think business professional, and you have to deal with,
You're like, hey, me.
FBAs of the street.
Got you. Second one, describe your dream procurement theme in the form of an outfit or a costume.
Angel.
No way. Well, yeah, appreciate it, Steve. That's your story, right? Okay. Last one. Share a funny story about a supply chain related or procurement or any misunderstanding, miscommunication that you've ever received.
Maybe the problem is it wasn't funny at the time, right?
You want to get a story now. Hurrah, these things happen. This is normal.
Gosh. Okay, I think I may have to.
No ways. You can't excuse you. You have to pause.
I'll come back.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Let's now just quickly move to your engagement and I would say involvement in some of the board memberships. I see you are part of a board trustee. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is the role? What is it day-to-day looking like? Or when you do, what's the influence in this? Yeah.
All right. So it's an enterprise and supply development program that we put together. So we were approached, when was it, 2019, by Eric, founder of the Document Warehouse. He was working with the Wild Hearts Group in the UK. They had received some funding from Johnson & Johnson, and they really wanted to address the problem of period poverty. As a man, something very foreign, but what made it interesting was understanding that a lot of girls actually drop out of school because of such a normal human function, right? And when you deep it, it's not just the matriculants that drop off. Kids drop off at every level,
True.
Once they start experiencing this. So when we looked at it, we thought, as the Old Mutual Insure team, that this would be a fantastic opportunity, for us to really make a positive difference to the lives of young people, and hopefully by them at least attending school, being able to get a proper education, improve their marks, they'd be ultimately, contributing members of society.
Oh, so it was an ESD drive.
ESD drive.
Yeah.
We worked with Albertina Maseko out in Nelspruit. We assisted her to create a factory. So she's our primary supplier as Wild Hearts. So what we do as the Wild Hearts Foundation Africa, we purchase these reusable sanitary products from her.
Nice.
So they're reusable because we also had to think about the environmental.
Yeah, but those reusable sanitary and
I understand. I mean, even with us, going to the students, you have to also overcome these stigmas, right?
True.
That, at least it is something that can help in the meantime. I mean, some of the stories are horrific as well, in terms of what the girls use. Through the foundation, we try and identify, poor indigent schools where the pass marks are not good.
And then you go to those.
Go in with interventions in that regard, where we try and, make sure that they can have access to the product. Sometimes they come back to us and say, can I have one for my sister? Can I have one for my mother? The one thing that I must say that I never expected from procurement was having an opportunity to contribute to society in one way or another. Hence, being part of that board as a trustee, is something close to my heart.
That's true, because then you can really see the impact. Touch is very tangible and very physical. And when you're in those spaces, you realize the purpose again.
The purpose again. Yeah.
So, let's thank, I would say, the government for instilling the transformational agenda and the role procurement can play in the communities that you can actually touch and see. I'm surprised that a lot of times those are driven by CSI projects and departments and stuff, but also procurement does come in, in that type of fashion.
Absolutely, because if you think about it, for our CSI area now, where they have needs for such products, they can procure, and in effect, we can, share them to homes or to other schools, etc., as they then have a more holistic offering, as they take whatever it is, whether it's desks, school shoes, libraries as well.
Well, thank you for that. I want to then move to the last segment of our conversation, just before we wrap up. This is career development.
Oh, yes.
Part of the, I would say, theme of this channel is to celebrate excellence of supply chain professionals and procurement, and also understand untold stories of those professionals. And yourself being someone who's now in leadership, your title is general manager, right?
I'm head of.
So some department is general manager, director is head of.
Senior manager.
Senior manager. So you are head of procurement. Now, for someone who is a sourcing specialist, a sourcing analyst, or a buyer for that matter, they see this role as too far-fetched and thinking, wow, how am I going to ever get there? What would you say to them if they are aspiring to be where you are and even more?
You have to at least have a plan, right, for your career. As you have a sourcing plan, you've got a plan for the business. You have to have a plan for your own life as well.
I like that.
Understand that things are not going to happen potentially overnight, but you must have that drive. You must have that push in order to not only improve yourself, but those around you. Show the value. I think people will see it. And, when the time is appropriate and the opportunities open up, you'll be definitely, considered. I think also importantly, build a strong network. I think that definitely helps a lot.
But what does that look like, building a strong network? I'm just talking from, let's say, hypothetically speaking, we have two professionals. One is from government, public sector. They're doing almost the same thing, got driven by triple PFMA, and all they can do is to just do that function. They really do want to get somewhere. And then you find the private sector, obviously opportunities are maybe more in terms of changes, but they also still want to go would you say they must now apply the same principles, networking, where, which spaces, how do we enter those spaces? For you, how did that work for you, or what advice can you give them?
Look, I suppose we call these things networking. It's all about people, right?
So,
and you'll meet people within the organization, you'll meet people without the organization. So it's all about how you engage, meet people on the level, make sure that when you do show up, you show up in your best possible self. And I think in that way, certain challenges can be overcome in terms of building your career. I don't think you must look at it as a limitation, but see where the little nuggets, can be opened up in terms of, what you are exposed to. Because I suppose I'm not too familiar with the government and that space, but at least within corporates, you have the opportunity to meet leaders in business. Make sure that you deliver and create shared value.
Yeah. So you must take an initiative to be intentional about where you're going, your plan. You must make a plan, like source and plan.
Yes.
Do you believe in vision boards, by the way?
My wife does. So I tend to look at hers and then see if there's things on the board that I'm not doing.
Thank wives. Please, they're very organized.
Yeah, no, you need a support structure, a good base, right? Perhaps to your point, perhaps it's a vision board that I haven't put down, and I would definitely say, if it's something that would work for you, do it. But also this whole idea of manifesting, the reality you want to see, living in it, breathing in it, and making sure that you go out and make it happen.
That's true.
That's the way to do it.
So I have found networking work so powerful. And one of the things that has helped me pivot in this space has been through networking, and obviously natural relationships. I'm a big sucker for natural relationships. If you don't nurture them, it's a problem, right? We can meet and be great and talk about something that might manifest 12 months later, or connect and remember that Lerato once said that, or I think might be a good fit. But if you don't nurture relationships, outside of friendships and, work related, but those acquaintance relationships that you meet in conferences, in those spaces, we've met through LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I think we don't do much in natural relationships, and sometimes that's what you need, to give, will not always be receiving, to give and see. Some of them obviously going to let go if they don't work, but some will work and you'll hear of an opportunity and you jump.
But also it's balance, right? I think if I can call it regret, I think I don't see my friends as often as I used to. I miss them. And life, is short. So to your point also, in having those engagements, make sure you enjoy as much as you can from it, because you never know, right? So very important to your point.
So, true. Lastly, under the topic of career development, and growth, as someone who's now a head of the department, the day you woke up being a head of department, take me through that day. Like, I can't believe it. And how was that like? And when did you settle into the role? Like, this is a day to day. It's not that bad,
I think I was fortunate, to your point, around nurturing the relationships and, manifesting what you want. It's almost like it was handed to me, if I can put it that way. But then you have to put in the hard yards up front, right? So it's all about putting in those hard yards, making sure that you can add the value. I think I'll always go back to that.
The value,
Because I think then the results, it's almost like what Richard Branson say, I'm not quoting him verbatim, but the whole point is don't focus on profits, focus on the people, focus on the customer, and the profits will come as a result.
Okay, so this is now for you. You focus on that, and the result came, which opportunity came up, and you obviously
timing and
So, but it's not overwhelming after all, right?
But
doable, that's it's doable, right?
I won't lie.
Someone will think, I'm not going to apply for this role. I
won't lie. There are challenges. It does become difficult. But to your point, you're right. It's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
You just have to apply yourself. It's not impossible.
True.
Yeah, and no one has all the answers.
That's true. obviously you have to challenge yourself. I mean, I started my career as an assistant, I'd say buyer, and then graduate and all of that. And, later on became a sourcing specialist, manager, category manager. But at the end of the day, if you actually sit and look back, then I would have imagined to be there. It's like
Possible.
But as you go on and you keep growing, you just navigate through. So it's not impossible.
Definitely.
Sure. So can you go back to that answer you owe us before we close that last answer that you owe us, please? Any misunderstanding that you've ever experienced, miscommunication since you were in the space?
Oh, okay. I suppose, you know how in procurement, sometimes people might see you as just the rubber stamp.
Yeah.
I've had a situation before where someone came to me and say, I want this guy, I want this supplier.
And he must just approve.
Just approve.
Yeah.
And I had to take them, sit with them to say, listen, this is the process. This is why we're doing it. I'm here to protect you. Because if we go ahead according to what you want, I can't sign it off. Someone else will have to sign it off. And it's going to come back to bite you. And I think it then clicked that, okay, I'm here to assist. I'm not here to make life difficult. And at least I managed to get them on board. But trust me, at the time, because of the person's seniority in the business, it was a bit of a dicey one.
Do you think procurement teaches enough entrepreneurs and businesses out there regarding procurement processes?
I don't think so. I definitely think there is an opportunity for us as a profession to actually, navel gaze a bit. And I'm not saying that certain companies don't do it, but I think in general, we probably do not. It's almost like you just send someone out there or, you create your own business and you're expected to navigate this world.
Bidding. That's why I do what I do, to say that you're expected to pass an exam that you were never enrolled and taught and written a test. And then now you're given an exam. Because now you're expected to perform, and no one is explaining these terminologies. And I think there's a lot of gap that we as supply chain professionals need to look at. Our own suppliers that are reading the database, or those ones that are new, even through ESD channels and programs, needs to have those type of,
Absolutely.
programs in place. Yeah.
And to your point, we're fortunate enough to have the ESD component where you can actually use funds, to drive these sort of programs, and meaningfully so, right? So it's definitely, I think, an area where there's a lot more opportunities to do a lot better.
No, thanks. So what drives you? Just the motto, your general motto you live by daily?
I suppose it's people first. I try and not sort of say things and expect people to follow, but I try and lead by example. In order for people to know that I'm also showing up in my genuine, authentic self. And fortunate enough that, the team that I have at the moment is like family, right? And I think for me, that's a nice and lovely way, people, it's all about us at the end of the day.
True. Exactly. I have a gift for you. Everyone that comes on this platform receives a special procurement planner.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy. This is just a reminder when you're busy in your day-to-day somewhere, remember the nuggets, schedule your day, go through it, and be inspired when you're doing your work.
No, really appreciate it. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here today. It is such an absolute pleasure, and your time is appreciated. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. It was such an impactful and inspirational conversation. Continue to like, share, subscribe, and tell other people about this platform. We are here to change the name of the game, and more than anything else, inspire the next generation of leaders. Have a good one.